Testing.
All right, I think it's time for us to get started. Thanks everyone for being here tonight. It's an important meeting for us. It's club elections, so we're glad you're all here to participate in that. We'll get started with some events by Carl Pockris, our new extra.
Me, I'm up?
You're up.
Already. Okay. I'll shut up and get up here and talk. All right. A few things here. Boy, we got a light crowd. Must be football season or something. There's hardly anybody here. Okay. Saturday, September 9th. That's this coming week. Leatherby's, 1 o'clock. We have the, I guess I'm supposed to hit this, aren't I? Nope. Nope. I don't know what's up on the screen. Oh, there we go. Saturday, 1 o'clock. The ice cream social. We usually have somewhere between 35 to 50 people show up there, sometimes a little more. And I called, they won't let us make reservations, but we've been there enough years that they're going to clear the place for us and as much as they can. And we will go have our ice cream social. I can't wait. I want to eat that big yearly banana split that I always do. I can't wait. So come on, join us if you have time. We do it at 1 o'clock so that it's after lunch, it's after the morning nets and everything like that, and hopefully that we can get on with other things in the rest of the day. And if you're not an ice cream fan, they make a lot of good stuff there. Leatherby's sandwiches. If you can, we have a lot of fun with that. Next here, the swap meet. That's up there too. Good. The swap meet, September 30th. That Spanish Fork North Pavilion is right next to Costco, right off the freeway. Right next to Costco, there will be exam sessions like there has been the last couple of years outside there. I had planned to go do that exam session, but I'm glad I didn't wait. So anyway, what is it? Is it $5? $5 to come to get in. That's our yearly fundraiser. It's the only fundraiser that we do. So come out and join us and buy some or come out and sell some. I think, what is it, where you charge them like $5 a table or something to come on and put a table on there or whatever. So, come out and sell your stuff. Somebody will want it or whatever, or give it away. In some cases, people come out and give stuff away. So, that goes from like 9 till noon, is it? Or 8 till noon? 9 till noon. And then people that want to set up tables and come out a little earlier, right? So anyway. we do for field day. So it was quite an event in the park. And so, having said all that, and a lot of people participated, about 10 7-6ers there show up to help us with all that. A couple of them, one from Vineyard and one from South Jordan, and some local ones, and Jackson and Nikki came out, and Mark, my next door neighbor, a bunch of us, there's about 10 of them, came out and helped with this. And it turned out to be just a fantastic little thing. It wasn't overcrowded or anything like that. It was just a nice introduction to ham radio. So, having said that, Matt and I talked about it, and we decided to talk to Noji about it because we wanted to use the club trailer, offering ourselves up to do this again. We probably have a couple of weekends left in the year, in the second part of the year, that we could do this. Go out in the afternoon, on a Wednesday afternoon, set up some antennas, set up the J-pole, get on the net, on the 7.6 net, expose some people to ham radio and things like that. But we're just not going to go do it. We want a sponsor for that. So if you have a neighborhood park and you have some people you want to expose, or a ward you want to get interested in ham radio, or a scout troop, or any number of things where you want to sponsor us and make sure that the park's water's not going to come on while we're out there, make sure that it's okay with the city and the neighbors and things like that, make arrangements, and we will come out and set up like we did there, and maybe we can have some success in your neighborhood too. But like Brent always says, this is your club. We want you to be, the sponsor for it. We want you to, have a hand in this. And so if somebody's got a park or somebody's got an idea for this, we want you to do it, and then we will try and bring the manpower, bring the radios, bring the antennas, and have some fun like we did that. And it's only for a few hours. We had a storm run us off about 7:30, 7:45, and the antennas were down in like 20 minutes, and we were out of there. So, but it's good practice to hone our skills for field day, good practice to hone our skills for introducing people to ham radio and things like that. We made some contacts. I can't remember some of the contacts Noji made. I know I made a 25-watt contact to, what was it, to Slovenia on my antenna. From Hindley Park to Slovenia on 25 watts. Which
Dominican Republic.
Huh?
Dominican
he got a Dominican Republic on his little go-to station there too. So anyway, so it was a lot of fun when we talked to other people besides that, but the highlights are always the long distance ones. So if you got any ideas, there's like I say, probably a couple of weeks here before the season, the weather gets bad. But we need sponsors to do it. We're not going to just go out arbitrarily to a park and do this. We want somebody to step up and say, hey, I'd like to do this in my neighborhood too. It was a lot of fun. And so, so I asked Noji if I could take that 5 minutes and introduce you to that, and he said that would be great. So that's why you got that little introduction. What else? I got nothing else, do I? Michelle, you're up for the real activities.
Hey, we got UVARC annual DIY night. Woo, stepping on something here. Thursday, November 2nd, here at the council room. About November, I'll get that sign-up sheet done.
Santa's going to be there, right?
Santa's going to be there for the little ones.
Oh, wait a minute.
And the big ones. And the big ones.
Even extras.
Yeah.
I mean, I've sat on Santa's lap every year for I don't know how many years. I can't miss that.
It's that broken hip that you keep causing every year that keeps them away.
Okay, and then field day. I'll just throw this in here, is in January. Winter field day is going to be in January. Noji, you are up.
Thanks.
Come on.
So I'm going to take a couple pages here because Dave McCarr said he would be here to do this, and then last minute he got called. What? It's a touching subject. He got called away by family business, so he couldn't be here. He's asked me to take his spot, but for this one, so we have some hand radio exam sessions coming up September 21st and 23rd, and these are both at the Provo Fire Station number 2. And okay, they memorized, they passed the exam, now they're coming back and going, what was it that we just learned about? Antennas and frequencies. Anyway, so there you go. And we go through all that stuff, technician course. All right, this is where Dave would come in. And he has ham radio exam sessions that he's setting up too in Spanish Fork and Eagle Mountain City Hall. The Spanish Fork one will be coincident, as Carl mentioned, with the swap meet. So it'll be there at that same time. Yeah, then you can just email Dave if you want more information about that. And also, he's got a technician course starting up on October 5th in Eagle Mountain City Hall. And there you go. Okay. 3 times the charm. Gavin also could not be here, so I'm going to take his spot as well. I'm just a blabbermouth. So he just wants everybody to know about how to get involved with UCARES, which is the Utah County Amateur Radio Emergency Service. And you can listen on the nets, and here are the net frequencies and how to join. Go to ucares.org. If you need to know any more about that, you can talk to any one of us. Many of us are in UCARES, and we are, a big part of that. We enjoy UCARES. We just had a picnic this last Thursday night, or Wednesday night? Tuesday night, yeah. And it was a lot of fun, a lot of people, good food. And by the way, speaking of UCARES, our very own Karen here is in charge. She's the boss as the emergency coordinator over UCARES. So, way to go, Karen. Thank goodness, that's all I have. Sean, you're next.
On a personal note, okay, I'm not sure exactly what the personal note is, but I have
Down arrow will tell you. Down arrow.
I have the great honor to announce all of the new hams and upgrades. So if you look, there is a list of all of our new hams. We're very excited for those. There's a few that aren't listed yet because they haven't came through the FCC, but it's getting close. So anyway, everybody will give them a big hand. Okay, and do we have any of our new hams that are here tonight? Go ahead and stand up. Okay, and you are?
I'm Kilo 07, Oscar India Lima. You can call me Slick.
Okay.
That's a great call sign.
Now for our upgrades.
Yeah, Carl!
Oh, we're excited about that. I've got to tell you, I was at the testing session with Carl, and somebody else corrected the first test, and personally, it would have been a perfect joke, other than I would have never done it, because they corrected it with the wrong answer key. And
he bombed it. He shook his head and then showed me the phone. It was 10 out of 50.
That isn't even guessing
I
factor.
did everything but launch right there.
So anyway, I had the honor, I was the one that recorrected the test with the right answer key, and it was great to be able to show him that he passed. It was fantastic. So all of our upgrades, so
Hey,
you want to
you
give
know
him a
what?
big hand?
My son Porter actually passed 2 weeks ago is general.
And other upgrades, go ahead, Carl, stand up. This is your chance.
I gotta say that, you know, I'm the village idiot here. If I can do it, anybody can. So if you're thinking about doing it, all it takes is some studying. That's the hard part, is stopping to the study.
Ditto. Like this way, Carl. Like this way.
Ditto.
He passed. His first reaction was, OMG!
No, but I probably got my color back about that time.
Yeah, it looked like he was going to throw up right there. All right. Our next group.
Alma. Oh, so while Alma's making his way up here, Alma texted me and said he'd be just a minute or two late.
It's more than a minute or two.
When he walks in, say, congratulations, Mr. President.
So while we're waiting for Alma, Scott Woodfield, where are you? Could you please come up? He's got an announcement to make. Don't worry, ladies, he's already married.
Is that worried about running, they were going to run away when I came up here? No, about 30 years ago, I quickly upgraded from all the way to the beginning to all the way to the end in about 3 months. And I was getting excited about ham radio, and I'd been on the air with the G5RB, and I was going to upgrade and get a tower. So my friend, who does a bunch of custom work, and he's a ham radio operator as well, we built 2 towers together. It's an 80-foot tower, 20-foot sections, with a hazer, and about a month later, the Lord in His infinite mercy called me to a position in the church where I had about 30 hours of work a week, and I didn't get to do much. That went on for 20 years. But what's happened is I have those tower sections and the other parts for the tower in the middle of my yard. They've been there for 30 years. They're galvanized, so they don't show any problems. But now my wife wants me to, let's just say, refurbish the yard. So I have to get rid of those tower sections. And so if anybody can give them a good home and really use them, if they just want to put them in their yard for another 30 years, that's fine with me. But just see me if you're interested. Probably take a little work, but they are just designed to be put together and tilted up. Originally they were 80 feet. I'm scared of that now. So I put up the bottom section 20 foot and used that for quite a while. But you could make it a 40 or a 60 without any problem. So just to let you know, so my wife will talk to me now. So if you're interested, see me.
All right, to begin with, I want to thank our outgoing board. So everybody who's presidency, raise your hand. Everybody, okay. Thanks you guys, I really appreciate it. All right, this year we have who was in the presidency is running. We have one challenger, Brent. I have a migraine right now, so I'm having a.
Oh, sorry.
I'm having a little bit of trouble here. So Brent is running for Vice President against Chad. So I actually wanted to give both of them an opportunity to stand up just to say what they are working towards, what they want to do for the club for this next year. And then we will go ahead and do voting. So,
Let me sync you up.
I haven't plugged in yet.
Oh, well,
So, Brent, why don't you stand up?
All right, thank you, Alma, appreciate that. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm KE7SAO. I'm the youngest president living in the 55 plus community. And let's see, I do have some management experience. When I was serving my mission for the church, I helped run the Bishop's Storehouse, and so I do have some management experience. I decided to finally run this year. I wanted to step outside my comfort zone and really give back to the club that has given me so much. Noji, obviously, who's given so much to everyone. I wanted to give back to him and to give back to all of you who have really made me feel nothing but welcomed in this community. My grandfather got me introduced into this hobby, and when he passed away in 2018, I then decided to go for my extra, and I know that he would be just so proud of how far I've come, but I know I've got a long way to go. And I know that I could never do as good of a job as Chad does, but I hope that I can give him a run for his money. I'm sure I'll probably lose a few bucks here and there, but either way, I promise I'm very dependable, I'm very organized, and whenever you need me to be somewhere, there's an inside joke in my family. Tell Brent what time to be there and he'll show up 5 minutes early. And so I'm very dependable, I'm very easy to talk to, and so with that, I hope to receive your vote.
Well, first of all, I am excited for the opportunity to run against Brent. You know, every year we say that we want to give everybody a chance to work in one of these positions. I know Noji feels the same and the rest of the board. So thank you, Brent, for stepping up and doing that. It really makes us happy when other people want to participate. With that being said, I love working with all of you. I love being part of this club. I love the activities that we do. I love the you know, the opportunities to go and play in field day, and just the camaraderie we've had with everybody is just you know, just music to my soul. I really enjoy working with you all, and would love to continue doing that if you want to have me here. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Chad. I meant to say exactly that about we're grateful that people are challenging.
Yep.
It gives everybody a chance to have their voice heard, if nothing else. All right, so that being said, can I make this full screen?
oh,
Or just hit start slideshow. There, okay. If you'll take out your smartphone and go to that QR code, or else just type in that URL, and then you can just go ahead and vote there. If anybody has some problems getting there, let me know. If you need access to the internet, let me know. We'll give you guys a few minutes to go ahead and do that.
Okay, I guess we could have put that list up there for you for those that were running, but thanks, Alma, for doing that. I remember the first time we did this with, I think it was sticky notes or something like that. Alma has put a lot of effort into this, and we do appreciate him doing that for us. Okay, and now for tonight's special presentation, we've got Noji, who's going to talk to us about RF connectors.
Conductors, connectors, you know, it's all the same. That's right. Exactly. There you are, conductors. RF conductors. I'm a conductor. My father before me was a conductor. And so anyway, I just wanted to say a few words about this because every time we have an election night, it's like, yay, election's over, we can go home. But before the vote is counted, we thought we'd at least blab a little bit, so you might have to endure me for a few minutes. I've already blabbed enough tonight, but, you know, oh well, here I am. All right. So, first of all, let me just get something out of the way. When I say RF, I'm talking about radio frequency. And we already know that, but I'm not talking about radio frequency in the air so much. I'm talking about wires. So there's two different ways that radio frequency can come about. And they can be transferred in the wires, and they could be going through space as radio waves. So those are both referred to as RF, radio frequency. All right, so what? Well, so we're talking about the one in the wires, like I mentioned, and let me just narrow down the scope of what we want to talk about. And this is going to be really quick. I'm just going to get this over with because the reason I'm doing this presentation is because I get a ton of questions all the time about what wire should I use for this? What coax should I use for that? Okay, I get it all the time, and this is like the whole thing in a nutshell. Is it going to answer every stinking question you have about wires? No, it's not. But it's going to be a general thing you can apply pretty much across the board, and that's why I wanted to share. You know, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You know, do people know better than I do about this? Of course they do. I'm just going to give you the Noji version, which is really short, you know, really dumbed down as best as I could. But this is... so we're talking about things like coax, ladder line, other kinds of feed lines, and wire antennas. So those two things, coax, that means the feed line carrying the signal, RF signal from your transceiver to the antenna, and then wire antennas, in other words, what the antenna is actually made of. And not just wire, but other kinds of things too. We're not going to talk about power cables, for instance, or power lines, or any of these other things, USB, but we're talking about RF, in other words, where radio frequency is likely. And sorry about my voice. It is what it is tonight. It's election night, I almost cry every time, so that's why. I don't know why it's like that. Anyway, I'll try to talk to it in a more manly voice. Hello, Carl. It doesn't work.
You got a year to get over it.
Okay. Right. Okay, so first of all, let's just get it over with. Speaking of getting over with, so first of all, which coax to use? And I'll just make it really simple. Everybody's always asking me, gosh, I got this radio, I got this antenna, and I want to do this. You know, what coax should I use? And there's all different kinds of coaxes you can buy. You don't have to worry about which kind of coax. There's only two you ever have to break it down to. To keep it simple, if you're running HF and it's shorter than 100 feet, use RG8X. If you want to use something better, great. But this is the Noji version, meaning I'm cheap. I mean, look at my clothing, okay? I don't have a lot of money. I can't spend money on tons of equipment, okay? And so that means I'm going to go the easiest route that I can and yet still work. So effective, yet cheap. So if it's greater than 100 feet, I'm going to go with LMR 400. That's a little pricey, okay? But you know what? It's low loss, and it's going to get the job done better than RG8X and anything else. If I want to do VHF, then we go a little lower. If I'm less than 50 feet, go ahead and use RG8X. Greater than 50 feet, LMR 400. There you go. That's it. RG8X, LMR 400. That's all you need to know. You don't need to get any other kind of coax. Is it okay to get other coaxes? Of course it is. You know, for instance, we have RG8. RG8 is really nice. Orem City uses RG8 quite a lot, and that's really good. It's very low loss. It's not as low loss as LMR 400, but it is a little cheaper. I love RG8, but you know, there's some drawbacks about it. I like, you know, a very, very low loss cable because I don't want to, you know, spend all my power going out to the squirrels and the pot guts and the cockroaches. All right, RG58. So I brought some of these coaxes with me. So this is RG58. It's not bad. You find this a lot connected to, you know, like your mobile radio antenna. It's very thin, and but yet it gets a job done if it's short enough. I don't like to use it because it's way too lossy. Can you use it and get away with it? Yes, if it's short. For instance, in my car, I've got RG58 because it's only 15 feet long. Not a big deal. People always ask, well, gosh, if I've got 20 feet, could I coil up the rest of it in my car? Sure you can. Okay, in fact, if you do coil it up, that's even better because then you got an RF choke built into it. So yeah, it's, you know, coil it up all you want. RG58, I just don't use it unless I really have to. This is RG8X. It's a little thicker. It's about a quarter of an inch and works really well. It's inexpensive, gets a job done. It's fairly low loss for what I need. Okay, LMR 240 is a lot like RG8X. It's a little more expensive, but it doesn't have that much more advantage over RG8X. So these ones, 174 and 316, I just advise you not to ever use them. Sometimes you might not have a choice. If something you buy is already connected to these coaxes, you know, that's the way it goes. But if you have a choice, don't get these two because they are so way lossy for, you know, for what we typically need to use. LMR 600, oh my gosh, that's a really thick, very, very expensive cable. Has probably the least loss of anything on my list here. Can you use that? Yes, you could. I would use it for a repeater more than I would for stuff that I have at home. But it's just way too outside my budget to use, so I wouldn't use that for regular use. And then also people ask, well, gosh, I've got coils and coils of 75 ohm coax lying around. Could I use that? Yes, you can for amateur radio. Amateur radio, typically we always use 50 ohm coax, okay? But you can use these because 75 divided by 100 or divided by 50 is 1.5 to 1. That's the maximum SWR if everything else is matching. Okay, so if it's the wrong coax, it's not that bad. And but still, it is the wrong impedance. If you want to be a purist, like maybe me, then you wouldn't use these, but you can. So you can do it if you want, especially if you get it for free. And sometimes there's like oodles of these rolls lying around for free, and that's why people can use them. And you can do that. Okay. Okay, this is LMR 400. It is. This is the one I have all over my house. If you look at my house, my wife will tell you that's that ugly line going clear across and around. Okay, underneath my gutter. But it's really nice coax because it's very low loss, even though you pay a little more for it. For the price, to me, this is the very best coax you can get. I mean, this thing is harder than heck. You can hardly even bend that center conductor. In fact, I bent it too hard, I'll poke myself in the eyeball. But so this is LMR 400. It's about half an inch almost, about 0.405 inches. But it's a beautiful coax. One thing I like about this too is you can bury this thing. Doug, so good to see you. And so you can actually get this thing in the ground. It's very weather resistant. Most coaxes are. One good thing about this too is it's also UV resistant. And again, a lot of coaxes you can get are UV resistant, but this one is like primo. And so I love it quite a bit.
They do make that 400 what they call 400 flex.
That's true. So Carl said, yeah, you can get this in UF, which is ultra flex, instead of this really hard metal thing, and that works just as well. So that's true. A little more pricey, but yeah, it works really, really good. And also there's a kind, I forgot the suffix for it, but it's you can get LMR 400 that's distasteful to rodents because the rodents love to chew in this stuff. If you get it on the ground, right, it's going to get chewed up by the badgers and all the mice and everything. So yeah, there's one that's actually made of a plastic that has imbibed junk that makes it distasteful. I know I tried biting on it once. Just kidding. Okay, so going to antenna elements. So when we talk about making an antenna, I love 14 gauge stranded because it's somewhat inexpensive. I can go to Home Depot anytime I want and just pick up a roll of this stuff. It's just really cheap. And sometimes it can get hard to deal with because it's kind of, thick, but it's what I use for most of my antennas. I mean, it's really good bandwidth-wise. I just made an antenna 2 days ago out of this stuff, and it just works really nicely. Made a contact with a guy in Costa Rica. It was really fun. So I recommend this. Can you use other antenna elements? Sure you can. In fact, this is 18-gauge speaker wire. Just the kind you always use for your little speakers in your house. 18-gauge, really thin, very inexpensive, just a few dollars for this little roll here, when it was full. And it works really nicely. I've made 20-meter antennas out of these and others too, and they work wonders. Are there any drawbacks to using this as opposed to something bigger? Not really. The bandwidth tends to be a little narrower with this, but not that much, okay? I've measured them on my analyzer, and the bandwidth that you sacrifice with this is so small it's even hard to measure, okay? But I recommend both of them. Very nice little things. If you want it to be permanent, 14 gauge is really good. Sometimes you'll look on the sheet, what do you call it? The insulation, sorry, of this, and also the label of the spool. They'll say THHN for the kind of insulation. And don't let that fool you, okay? But what that means is that it's gasoline proof. You can bury this in gasoline and it'll be just fine. However, there is a problem with THHN, and that is it's not completely UV proof. You put this outside, after 5 years, it'll start breaking down. And
the insulation peels off.
That's right. The THHN has a clear outer insulation, and then the plastic inside, the PVC, and the clear one will actually break off.
THWN, however.
Yeah, and that gets a little more expensive, THWN. Thanks, Gordon. All right. So people ask me too, which is better, solid or stranded? Well, you can do either and make it work. Solid tends to be a lower loss. So, there's always that. However, solid tends to stretch. In other words, if you have a piece of wire that's solid and it's hanging down over time, it'll start getting longer and longer because of the weight, okay? Stranded tends not to do that quite so much. Will stranded stretch? Yes, it will. Just not quite so fast and quite so much. So, and also solid tends to break easily. People put up antennas and their wires outside, okay, and they don't notice that their wire, which is really nice and stiff and solid and everything, that they don't notice that it's actually moving in the wind. They look at it and the wind blows at 60 miles an hour and it's just kind of sitting there. What they don't see is that micro vibration because of the wind. And over time, that micro vibration will make it snap. So anything, just keep in mind, guaranteed if you put one of these wires stretched tightly outside for an antenna, it will eventually break. Because wind does that. That's just a natural thing to do. How do you prevent that from happening? Either get a bigger, thicker antenna wire, or just count on changing it every few years. They're not that expensive. I mean, just call me. I like to climb on roofs. Anyway, so I don't advise you to get copper weld. Copper weld used to be very popular. It's a bimetal combination of two metals. Very strong, very nice to use. But however, it gets difficult to repair. If you ever have to repair copper weld, it'll drive you nuts. You'll spend an hour doing one connection over and over again because it's just hard to do. Anyway, and they break easily because they are the bimetal stuff. They're kind of awkward to use too because they're the basis of what once became spring steel. So if you try to stretch out copper weld, it's just like shoom, goes back into place, and it'll gouge out your arm. I've done that before.
That's what the phone company used to use.
And the phone company used to use copper weld all the time. Now there's aluminum tubing. I should have spent more time on aluminum tubing, but I didn't. So here we go. I'm just saying that aluminum tubing is really good for antenna elements. However, if you get them too long, because if you got a 40-meter antenna made of aluminum tubing, you either have to go to traps and make them shorter, or you have to, do something else, but make a wire like I do. Aluminum tubing is good because it's not solid, and because at that frequency, because of the skin effect, the current only travels on the outside. So you don't need the whole thing in the middle. It's tubing because it's only the skin that you need. So that's really good that way. Okay. I'm not the kind of person that says, do you have any questions? Because if you did, you'd ask them. So moving on, I just want to quickly talk about the velocity factor. It's really important to know when you're making antennas. If you don't make an antenna and you say, no, just go make my antenna, well, then I'll worry about it. But if you want to worry about it, here it is. So what it is electricity travels close to the speed of light in space. However, but how close does it travel when it's in a wire? Well, okay. So typically in a wire, about 2/3 to 9/10 the speed of light. That's usually about what it is. And it's going to depend on the wire. And it depends on the composition of the wire and other factors too. So the velocity factor means how fast your signal is going to travel in that wire in regard to the speed of light. So the real VF quantities that are in existence, for instance, regular copper wire, about 0.951. So that's 95.1% of the speed of light. Aluminum tubing, 0.94, so very, very good, very fast. RG58 coax, 0.66. No, so are these things going to make any difference, Well, it depends on what you make your stuff out of. You just got to keep in mind, when you say 1 wavelength, 1/4 wavelength of whatever you're using, that's going to depend on your velocity factor. So this is not a 1/4 wavelength of light in space. This is a 1/4 electrical wavelength is what we're talking about here. So that means 1 wavelength is going to be just 2/3 in this antenna shorter. RG8X, about 0.82, Alma 400, 0.85, so a little bit better there. And 300 ohm ladder line, 0.88, so the velocity factor even better on that one. 450 ohm ladder line, 0.91. A lot of us in here don't know or even use a ladder line. That's fine. If you ever want to use that, please call me. There's a lot of considerations because ladder line can get really hard to use because you don't want to get that thing near to anything metal. The good thing about it is that ladder line is very lossless. And so you can run your stuff with, 10.1 SWR and not have a problem because the reflection is just going to go right back out the antenna. Your radio might react to it differently because it might just go, that reflection's a little too large. I'm going to shut this thing down to 5 watts. But anyway, so ladder line, high velocity factor, low loss. Okay, here's an example of what I want to. Go ahead, Gary.
So you want higher or lower velocity factor? Higher.
Okay, what Gary is saying, so is it desirable to have a higher or lower velocity factor? And I'll just say the answer is it doesn't matter as long as you know what it is and are designing your stuff to it. So that's the only reason that we talk about it is so that you can keep that in mind. Because when you're talking about lengths of things, that's when it comes into play. For instance, if I was making a delta loop, okay, which is, 3-sided antenna, that's going to be made out of coax, not regular wire. And that coax, then I have to know how long that velocity factor is going to make that antenna. It's going to be shorter by that much. That's why. So good question, Gary. So here's an example. So let's say I'm making just a regular dipole out of my 14 gauge wire here, just plain old wire that I got at Ham Depot. I'm going to do it for 40 meters, so I'm going to say 7.2 megahertz. So I'm just going to use my regular calculation. The speed of light equals frequency times wavelength. That's what it is. So that means that speed of light divided by the frequency is going to equal the wavelength. In this case, 1 whole wave is 41.67 meters. Okay. Well, I'm going to divide that by 2 because I'm going to create a half wave dipole. So that divided by 2 equals 20.83 meters. There we go. And I'm going to convert that to inches. 39.37 inches per meter, 820.2 inches, and I'm going to convert it back to feet. There we go. And I end up with 68.35 feet of this wire. Well, okay, if I make my antenna wire for 40 meters at 68.35 feet, so I'm looking at this thing and going, my resonant point is actually about 6.85 megahertz. So actually, this thing is way too long. If I try to tune it up, I'm going to find an SWR that's going to be way too high because my wire, but why? I've exactly calculated what I needed, right? Except what I'm missing is what? the velocity factor. So I did not take that into account. So the velocity factor for copper wire is 0.951, as you remember from the last page. So if I multiply the 68.35 feet by 0.951, I get 65.0 feet. And if I do that 65 foot long half-wave dipole for 40 meters, that will be resonant. That'll work really nicely. And I'm going to check my work by going back to the 468 rule. 468 is just simply a conversion number that takes into account velocity factor, and that's why we use it. So simply 468 divided by 7.2, I skip all that math and go right to 65 feet. Ta-da, I'm done. I figured it out, and there you go. I saved all that time. So there you go, velocity factor and all that good stuff.
Does it matter if you're going to feed that in the center or off center or end?
So the question is, does it matter if I feed this antenna by the off center or middle or at the end, like an end fed, you know? And does it matter in what way are you saying?
Is it going to affect your calculations for the length?
So Chad's asking whether my length calculations are going to matter depending on how I feed it. And the answer really is no, because it's the frequency that determines how long your elements are. So it really doesn't matter.
It does affect bead point impedance.
It does affect the bead point impedance, yes. So the matching is going to have to be different depending on where you feed it.
Because if you feed it in the center of the dipole, the impedance will be somewhere in the neighborhood of 73 ohms.
73 ohms. At the end of the dipole, probably more closer to 1800.
It's going to be closer to 2,000 or 3,000 ohms.
Yes. Yep. Okay. Carl and then Heath.
Some of those coaxes you mentioned for other reasons, and I somewhat know the answer to this, but don't you put a little bit of value into what connectors that you have to put on some of those coaxes? Some of them are very difficult to put on, like 8X is difficult to put connectors on, or 400 are not so difficult to put connectors on, or, you know, can that make a difference in what you choose?
So Carl's asking, does it make a difference what kind of connector you put on these things? And really the answer is yes, to a point. And so it's your convenience. If you think a connector is convenient for you, use that. However, typically for UHF, it's kind of hard to recommend PL259, SO239 connectors. They have a little bit more loss at those frequencies, and as you get higher even, I would go to N connectors instead. B and C connectors are good for convenience. Click on once, their bayonets are good, but you know, again, if you go to really high frequencies, I would avoid those too. So it's convenience. For me, in most cases, it's just convenience. Heath?
You know the people that will connect their radio up to their rain gutters on their house because they're trying to do a stealth antenna or something like that. You know, average what the resistance might be, or the impedance, I mean.
So Heath is asking, what is the impedance of like a downspout of a gutter system and so forth, and I have no clue. Anybody have any idea? I don't know. I've never measured that. Go ahead.
Different question. I've had a J-pole here I won a couple of years ago, and the connector on it is different and different size than off both my HT and my base unit. Is there a store or retail around here that has different size connectors for radios and this kind of thing?
Remind me of your name, please.
Brad.
Brad. So Brad says, his J-pole and other things come with connectors that aren't always immediately adaptable to your HT. Is there a way to get one of these adapters or something similar locally, maybe at a store? I don't know of any stores. Closest I know is Standard Supply in Salt Lake, and they have a really limited selection. Last time I bought their adapters up there, honestly, they were junk. The insides of those things were phenolic, and they just fell apart. So I honestly recommend Amazon. I don't know who likes or doesn't, but I mean, if you know where to get them in HRO, I never bought a connector at HRO to do that kind of adapter, but there are places. So if you go to Amazon, there is a group called Cables Online, okay, and they resell really reputable and reliable connectors. They really do a good job, and Coax too. So, oh yeah, okay, I got to remember your name. It is
Doral.
Doral. That was my next guess. Go ahead, Doral.
I think we also need to answer the other half of this question.
Okay.
I understood it. You want to, and I'm guessing it's one of Carl's antennas, and the connector on that appears to be different. So, Carl, what connector should you use for your antenna?
Well, the connector that's on the antennas, except for one of the 11,000 that I've done, are SO239 connectors on that stub connector that's on there.
Oh, we know where that was.
Yeah.
We went to Brad, yeah.
A PL259 is what plugs into that SO239. Now, I've explained this 100 times to you, but to remember that, it's difficult to remember, because in military terms, SO is short for socket. That's the part that gets plugged into the socket. And the PL is short for plug. That's the part that plugs into the socket. So that's how you remember those two terms, if you have trouble remembering. The only one that I built was an end connector, and it had to be ordered special, and they're quite expensive compared to what the connector I built was for the American Fork Police Department. The fire department rather. In 2012, I put an antenna on the fire department, and they already had an end connector on the other end of that coax. And I wasn't willing to change that, so it was easier to order a connector and to put it on the J-pole for them and get it going. So that one in American Fork that's on that top of the is the only one, and I had to jump through hoops to do that. So I've had people request it, but it's easier to buy an adapter if you really.
Yeah, I recommend actually getting coax and then pigtail.
Yeah, and they do make an adapter that will screw right into the SO239 that has an end connector on the other end. They make adapters of all kinds of adapters.
Oh, yeah.
The adapter can cost as much as the antenna.
That's true. Yeah.
So that's why I try to keep the antennas that I do as cheap as possible to get the new hams and the people that are just starting out, get them on the air as cheap as possible, because we didn't want anybody to get discouraged with their handheld in their basement, not having anybody to talk to and things like that. So that's how that came about.
Well, and Brad, also your antenna, don't forget, comes with free installation.
From any agent of your choice.
So, 10 more seconds for the last question. 7, 3. Brent, you're up.
Well, don't you want to know more?
Have you got the results? Wait a minute, the results are in. Take it away, Alma.
No, you don't have to wait. All right, so the only anomaly really is Joe Costello. You got 2 votes for activities coordinator. You didn't win.
Thank you, she killed me.
The presidency will remain as it is for the rest of the year. I do want to make mention, though, that Brent got a significant amount of votes. So, Chad, watch out for next year. Thanks, you guys.
All right. Oh. Nope, I had this. All right. What's his name? Your name? What was his name? Porter. Oh yeah, Porter. Hi, Porter. Can you stay right here for me and look? Oh, we need to take it. Okay. Chad, can you? Well, let's do this.
No. Hey, Brent?
Yeah.
I think I see a bunch of ballots out there underneath the table.
1, 2, 3, 4. I'll just start with 5. If we need more than that, we can. Okay, there you are. Okay, Porter. I oftentimes like to give kids your age who are new hams a shout out, but you are a very particular special case. How old are you?
12.
You're 12 years old and you already got your general. That is really, really impressive. You know, it's one thing for someone of your age to get their technician. That's awesome. But to do it, to get your general, that is dedication. So I am going to give you 2 new things I need you to do for me. Okay, the first one is you have to have all your friends admit how cool you are, again. Okay, and then the second one, let's see.
Tell them what you did, bud.
At my school, I started studying to get the license club.
Dude, you are just on fire. All right, how about this then? You have to get at least 3 people to get their license.
Okay.
Can you do that? All right, you want to help me with some door prizes? What? Everyone has certificates now, right? Everyone's got a ticket? All right.
267.
See it a little bit more. Hey! Oh! Sorry, I have to go over the prizes. So we've got a Windows computer. This antenna was donated. It is a diamond antenna. No idea what kind of radio it goes to. It was just donated to us.
It'll go on any handheld, I think.
Okay. A 2-way handheld transceiver. It's a 12-foot Noji? I think. 12-foot Coax. ARRL membership. Window sticker with the club repeater. And flashlight. And then we'll go with the main prize last. So, don't remember. Slick, thank you. Alright, Slick, pick your prize.
What's with the computer?
So it's a small computer, and you just need a monitor.
Cool. Yeah, I'll take that. That's radio. That's code electronic. What model is it? There you go. Cool.
Okay, you're running.
Hold up.
Pose.
There you go.
Okay, grants number.
Oh, speaking of, I need to get my ticket out.
293.
Your job is to pick my number, all right?
We have
These PL 259s?
Yes.
And RGA?
I'm here. It looks like it.
Hold it up, there we go.
Got it, guys. Jumper.
302.
302.
Guess what?
My wife won the AFRRL membership last time. Maybe I'll get one for her. Let's see, what's still up? The whole thing? A flashlight?
How many more do you want to do? How many more do you want to do?
Which antenna?
This antenna.
Oh. Or the sticker.
Or the flashlight.
Let's try the bow thing. I already have 2. It's about time one of them works.
All right, around here, hold up. There we go.
Uh, 257.
Crap. Congrats, Sean. What a membership.
Membership flashlight.
Yeah, I'm just going to steal that because
That's the one you always want.
Yeah, actually, my membership is due, so I could really use that.
take it.
Yeah, of course. I should have said anything. Watch out, this is... No, I was kidding.
I've actually got one.
Are you serious? Wait, I was kidding. You know that, right? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Sean, thank you. That was very kind of you. Thank you. Sean, are you sure? I was totally kidding.
I actually have one not used.
Okay, thank you. That was very kind of you. Thank you. I will be a gentleman and I will throw my ticket out. This is true.
276.
All right, we're down to 2 prizes. We got the window sticker and the antenna. And then we've got our main prize.
$288.
288.
That's me. I didn't know I was so lucky. Let's see, what we got to choose from here, Brett?
The antenna or the window sticker?
I'll try that.
All right.
There we go.
$279.
279.
Get the sticker.
All right.
Turn around here, look around, hold up. There we go.
So last but not least, we have our Pocris J-pole. This comes with free installation, courtesy of Noji. Who is the lucky winner? Hey Carl, now that you upgraded your license, are you going to make something other than the Pocris J-pole? Like a Pocris sauna?
It makes 6 meter, and 6 meter, and 220.
Yeah, but you're an extra now.
I'll think about it.
304.
304.
304.
All right, look over here, Joanne. Smile for the picture. We get the whole antenna in there. There we go. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you all so much for coming. We're going to go to a new place tonight. We are going to Fat Daddy's Pizza. And let's give one more round of applause for our current club presidency and for their willingness to serve again. All right, good night. See you all there.
Are we doing chairs?